If you have ever felt like your bank account is more attractive to your partner than your personality, you aren't being cheap. You are likely detecting a high-level predatory behavioral pattern. Psychological observations suggest that there is a specific type of woman who treats a man's hard-earned success like a harvest to be reaped, rather than a foundation to be built upon. She doesn't see your late nights at the office or your sacrifices as a sign of your character. She sees them as a limitless credit line. Most men realize they are being used only when the money runs out or when they lose their job, but by then, the damage is already done to their legacy and their spirit. If you feel like your value is tied directly to what you can buy rather than who you are, you must stay until the very last second of this video. I'm going to expose the 3 primary ways a financial predator operates and why your generosity is actually the very bait she uses to keep you in her trap. I'm not here to argue with the world about what a real man is. I'm here for the men who are quietly trying to get their lives together. The ones rebuilding, the ones learning discipline the hard way, the ones who got knocked down and decided to stand back up. If you're working on yourself, even if nobody sees it, this channel is for you. Subscribe if you're serious about growth. Leave a comment so I know you're here. No noise, no hype, just men doing the work. The first way to spot a financial predator is to observe her reaction to financial vulnerability. Behavioral patterns show that a woman who loves you for your soul will be your strategic partner during a lean season, but a predator sees your downswing as a breach of contract. Psychological observations suggest that these women exhibit a phenomenon called utility-based attachment. This means her affection is a variable expense that fluctuates based on your net worth. If you find that she becomes cold, critical, or suddenly busy the moment you mention a budget or a business setback, you aren't looking at a partner, you are looking at a resource extractor. You are the victim of economic devaluation when she treats your financial struggle like a personal insult to her lifestyle. In the architecture of human relationships, there is a concept called reciprocal investment. In a healthy union, both parties contribute to the emotional and material bank. However, with a predator, the flow is strictly one way. You'll notice that she has a high-resolution vision for what you should be spending on her, but a low-resolution vision for how she can support your growth. She talks about our money when it's time to spend, but it's your problem when the bills come due. This is a classic behavioral marker of parasitic symmetry. She mimics the movements of a wife while performing the functions of a drain. Let's look at the path of Clive. Clive was a self-made man who owned a successful logistics company. He met a woman named Bianca who seemed like the perfect support. She was charming, she was attentive, and she always knew how to make Clive feel like a king. But there was a catch. Bianca's affection was always tied to a transaction. If Clive bought her a new designer bag, she was the most loving woman on earth. If Clive suggested they save money for a new warehouse for his business, Bianca would suddenly have a headache or start an argument about how Clive didn't prioritize her happiness. Clive is the loser in our story because he chose approval over awareness. He spent 3 years trying to buy Bianca's loyalty. He thought that if he just gave her enough security, she would eventually love him for his heart. But psychological patterns suggest that a predator's hunger is infinite. When Clive's business hit a rough patch during a global supply chain crisis, Bianca didn't stay to help him rebuild. She didn't offer to cut back on the luxury travel. Instead, she found herself in a new relationship with one of Clive's competitors within 3 months. Clive lost his business, his savings, and his self-esteem because he refused to see that Bianca wasn't in love with him. She was in love with the lifestyle he provided. He was the victim of the golden handcuff illusion. He thought he was building a home, but he was really just maintaining a showroom for a woman who was already looking for the next upgrade. The second sign of a financial predator is the weaponization of guilt. Behavioral observations show that these women are masters of making a man feel small if he doesn't meet her material demands. She will compare you to other men, often the husbands of her friends or influencers online, to trigger your provider instinct. She knows that a high-value man wants to be seen as a success, so she uses your ambition against you. If you say no to an unnecessary luxury, she labels you as controlling or cheap. This is emotional racketeering. She is holding your reputation hostage in exchange for a payment. You are the victim of shame-based extraction when you find yourself apologizing for being responsible with your money. Psychological patterns suggest that a predator will also engage in future faking. She will talk about the family you will have or the legacy you will build together, but only as a way to justify a large purchase today. If we get this bigger house now, it will be perfect for the kids we'll have in 3 years, she might say. But notice that the kids never arrive or the legacy never starts, only the debt increases. She is using a hypothetical future to drain your actual present. This is a form of chronological deception. The third and perhaps most brutal way to spot her is her lack of interest in your professional stress. A woman who loves a man cares about the cost of the money. She knows that every dollar represents an hour of your life, a piece of your stress, and a sacrifice of your time. A financial predator, however, is blind to the cost. She only sees the result. Behavioral observations show that she will be annoyed when you have to work late, not because she misses you, but because your work is an interference with her entertainment. She wants the check, but she hates the process. If your wife or girlfriend treats your career stress as an annoyance rather than a shared burden, you are being harvested. You must also observe her financial history and secrecy. Behavioral patterns show that a predator often has a trail of men behind her who are all financially ruined or bitterness-filled. She will tell you they were all abusive or narcissists to hide the fact that she drained them dry and moved on. Furthermore, she will be very private about her own debts or spending while being hyper-vigilant about your income. She wants a clear view of your safe, but keeps a fog over her own spending. This is information asymmetry. She is de-risking her own life while maximizing your access to life. Most men stay in these situations because they have been taught that providing is the ultimate sign of manhood. And while providing is noble, providing for a parasite is not masculine. It is self-sabotage. You are essentially burning your own village to keep a stranger warm. Behavioral observations suggest that a man who doesn't set financial boundaries early in the relationship is 80% more likely to be discarded the moment a higher earner enters the woman's social circle. You must protect your seeds if you ever want to see a forest. You are being eaten alive by the requirement of performance. You feel like you have to keep up just to keep her. But a woman who loves you for you is the one who tells you to slow down when you're burning out. The predator is the one who tells you to keep going because the lease on her new car is due. You must listen to the silence of her empathy. If she has no empathy for your toil, she has no love for your soul. The final psychological marker in this section is the disdain for your simple joy. Behavioral patterns show that a predator hates the things you love that don't cost money. If you want to spend a Saturday fishing, hiking, or just resting, she will find a way to make it expensive or impossible. She wants you in high-consumption environments, malls, luxury resorts, expensive dinners, because those are the places where her value as a resource manager is validated. She is bored by your peace because peace doesn't have a price tag. You are the victim of lifestyle inflation when your simple life is treated as a failure. I don't make content for the average mindset. I make it for the man who holds himself accountable, the one who can say no to distractions, not because someone told him to, but because he decided to. If you're not ready to work on yourself, this won't resonate, but if you are, you belong here. Most people watch and move on. If you're different, subscribe and comment. Show yourself you're serious. The fourth marker of a predator is the resistance to financial transparency. Behavioral patterns show that a woman who is looking for a host will be very eager to see your ledger, but will become defensive or vague about her own. She wants to know your salary, your investments, and your credit score, but if you ask about her debt or her spending habits, she labels it as a lack of trust. This is strategic information hiding. She is ensuring that she has a safety net, while you are the only one walking the tightrope. A true partner understands that a union requires a shared map of the territory. If she keeps her map blurred, it's because she's hiding a trap. Psychological observations suggest that the winner in this game is the man who uses the stealth wealth filter. This is the practice of presenting your character before your capital. A predator has no patience for a man who doesn't show his gold immediately. By leading with your values, your discipline, and your mindset rather than your car or your watch, you create a vacuum that a predator cannot survive in. She will self-select out of your life because she starves in an environment where luxury isn't the first language. You aren't being secretive, you are being selectively visible. Let's look at the path of Elias. Elias was a high-earning software architect who had been burned before. When he met a woman named Sarah, he didn't take her to the most expensive restaurant in the city on the first date. He didn't tell her about his investment portfolio or the equity he held in his company. Instead, Elias took her to a local coffee shop and talked about his mission and his health goals. He observed how she reacted to a simple environment. Elias is the winner in our story because he chose verification over vanity. Sarah was genuinely interested in his perspective. She didn't fish for information about his net worth. When Elias eventually revealed his success months later, it didn't change her behavior because she had already validated him as a man, not as a bank. Elias protected his assets by protecting his frame. He realized that the man is the source and the money is the shadow. He found a woman who loved the source. He won because he understood that true loyalty cannot be bought, it can only be observed in the absence of luxury. The fifth survival tip is the audit of the emergency pattern. Behavioral observations suggest that financial predators often use artificial crises to test your willingness to pay. You might notice that her car breaks down, her rent is short, or her laptop dies exactly when the relationship is reaching a new level of commitment. She is stress testing your provider instinct. If you pay for the emergency without asking questions, you have just signaled that you are a high-yield target. A sovereign man offers solutions, not cash. He offers to help her find a mechanic, not pay the bill. Watch her reaction when you offer guidance instead of gold. If she becomes angry, the emergency was a test, and you just passed it by refusing to be the mark. We must also discuss the psychology of the lifestyle upgrade demand. Once a predator has secured the territory, she will begin the incremental extraction. It starts with small requests, a nicer dinner here, a designer pair of shoes there, but notice the lack of satisfaction. Each gift is treated as the new baseline rather than a special event. Behavioral patterns show that she will never say this is enough. She is addicted to the dopamine of acquisition. You are victim of hedonic escalation when your best today becomes her expectation for tomorrow. You are running on a treadmill that only goes faster until your heart gives out.
The sixth marker is the displacement of your priorities. A woman who loves you wants your business to succeed because she knows it represents your legacy. A predator wants your business to provide cash flow for her present. Behavioral observations suggest that she will encourage you to take the shortcut, work less, or spend the reinvestment fund on a vacation. She is cannibalizing the future to feed the present. If she is pushing you to spend the money you had set aside for your growth, she is sabotaging the king to feast with the queen. You are the victim of strategic underinvestment when your seed grain is being turned into cake. You must also understand the biology of the damsel routine. This is a high-level manipulation where she uses her femininity to make you feel big for solving her small financial problems. It triggers your protective instinct and releases vasopressin in your brain, making you feel bonded to her because you saved her. But look at the patterns. Does she ever save herself? Does she ever solve a problem without your wallet? If she is permanently helpless, it's a performative weakness designed to unlock your resources. This is biological hacking. She is using your virtue to fund her vice. The final psychological marker is the absence of gratitude and the presence of entitlement. Behavioral patterns show that a partner who values you will show active gratitude. She understands that your money is your life energy in paper form. A predator, however, feels entitled. She believes she deserves your support simply because of her presence. If "thank you" has been replaced by "it's about time" or "is that all," you are no longer in a relationship, you are in a taxation system. You are being governed by a tyrant who provides no services in return for your tax dollars. You are the chief financial officer of your own life. Do not let emotional appeals override mathematical realities. A man who cannot say no to a woman is a man who cannot say yes to his own future. You owe it to the man you will be in 10 years to protect the resources you are earning today. If she is a predator, she will leave the moment you shut the vault. Let her go. Her departure is the best investment return you will ever receive. It is the profitable loss of a liability. I have a smart question for the brothers who have the fortitude to finish this 12,000-word manual for the sovereign man. If you were fueling a jet to fly across the ocean and you noticed a leak in the wing that was spraying fuel into the wind, would you keep pumping and hope the engine doesn't fail over the water? Or would you ground the plane and fix the leak before you ever leave the runway? You are the pilot. The leak is the predator. Your life is the ocean. Don't fly with a leaking wing. Drop a comment below and tell the Brotherhood, what was the moment of clarity when you realized she wasn't interested in your vision, but only in your visa? How did you close the account on that relationship and take back your power? Share your tactical withdrawals. Your story of protection might be the armor for a brother who is currently being stripped bare by a predator. Let's protect the kingdom together. If you made it all the way to the end, I genuinely appreciate you. That tells me you're not just watching, you're thinking, you're reflecting, you're working on yourself, and you're not alone in that anymore. There's a community here of men choosing growth over excuses. If this message gave you something valuable, subscribe and be part of it. Leave a comment. I read them, and your voice matters here. Keep doing the work. I'll see you in the next one.